Okay, good evening, everybody. It looks like we have a couple of participants that have been able to join us. I'm sure more will trickle in. We know that this is the time people are probably ending their commute home from work or just shutting down for the day. My name is Tyler Williams. I'm here on behalf of the District Department of Transportation with a number of my colleagues to provide an overview of the final design for the Pennsylvania and Minnesota Avenue intersection improvement projects. We recognize that this project has been quite a long time coming, and now we have made it through the challenges of multi-year utility work and solicitation and procurement. And we are really ready to go. And we believe what we'll be bringing to you today is a project that not only significantly improves the roadway infrastructure at this intersection, but also enhances safety for all roadway users, that being those in vehicles, those using transit, which we know this is a major transit hub, and those that are pedestrians as well. With that said, I'm going to allow my colleagues who will be co-presenting to introduce themselves. Their names are Julie Pike and Christine Mayer, so please feel free to take it away.
Hello, everyone. I am Julie Pike. I am the roadway design branch manager within our infrastructure project management administration. So we focus on the large scale roadway design projects.
And good evening, everybody. My name is Christine Mayer. I'm the Associate Director for Multimodal Safety Engineering with the Traffic Safety Administration. So we've been working with Julie and the teams in IPMA and the Infrastructure Project Management Administration to try and make some safety improvements to this project.
So I'm going to dive right into project history. We're going to look all the way back to 2007. This is when the project started planning concept as part of the Great Streets Initiative. The goal of the project was to improve safety and connectivity, which included consolidation of green space into usable park space. The project then went through a series of environmental reviews and continued design. And in 2021, we received approval to transfer land between the National Park Service and DDOT. And this was critical to the intersection design. And so the final design was completed in 2024. The project development at that point had already taken over 17 years. So in the current design, this removes the diagonal roads and consolidates the traffic into one signalized intersection. By removing the roads to the North and South Square parks, we can create usable park space, and the project enhances safety for pedestrians, transit users, motorists, and other users of the intersection. This reduces cut-through traffic and has just general benefits for residents as well as people who are moving their way through this intersection. We are adding, sorry, Christine. We are also doing bulb outs to shorten crosswalks. So some vital, key, important safety improvements. So on the next slide, these are renderings from the 2024 design. So the one that was completed in 2024, and this shows a view of the North and the South Park. You will see that before there was a road that cut through, but now that is replaced with pavement and trees and plantings to allow for people to use this space. The current design, we also know that it has been some time since people have had a chance to see this design layout. So the current design is on our project website to be able to view and familiarize yourself with what that design is. So to continue the project timeline, we'll step into fall 2025. The design was years in the making and finally ready to proceed with construction. At the same time, we recognized that there was some additional information available for this intersection, especially considering recent fatalities and other crashes in this location. We used this opportunity to evaluate the project to see if there were any additional adjustments that could be made to the design to optimize safety and increase operational capacity. Christine will dive further into those evaluations, but while the evaluations are underway, We have selected a competitive bid for the construction contractor and moving forward with construction procurement. So in the spring, we anticipate construction notice proceed at that point, and we expect sometime in the March-April timeframe that you will start to see improvements being installed in and around the intersection. The construction is expected to last approximately 2 years with a grand opening in spring of 2028.
Right. I'll take it for the next couple of slides. In looking at this project and taking kind of a fresh look at it, we noticed that there are some challenges. So Pennsylvania Avenue and Minnesota Avenue are both on our district's high injury network, which means it has high severity and high density of crashes for these corridors. There have been 3 fatal pedestrian crashes in recent years, and many more injuries and for drivers, passengers, and all road users. Much of the traffic at the intersection that we've seen with recent data analysis is actually coming off of 295 and utilizing the intersection to access East Capitol Street. So they're coming off of 295, making those left turns up Minnesota Avenue to access East Capitol Street, because we do not have a full access intersection at East Capitol Street. Our constraints. So we still want this project to go forward to improve conditions, to create that green space and make the some necessary safety improvements and execute on this committed project. If no project happens, the safety issues will continue, and we expect, given recent trends, that more people will be injured or could be killed at this intersection. We cannot start the design from scratch, so we had to utilize the existing design as much as we could and make enhancements that way. This does provide us an opportunity, though, to address 3 of the top 50 most crash-prone intersections, and the Minnesota and 25th intersection is our top 3 worst for that. Very high conflicts and lots of safety issues there. The proposed safety improvements are now included in the project in this update to the design, and safety enhancements will be implemented in phases with coordination throughout construction. So I want to walk through what those design enhancements are. Here's an overview of those, and we'll kind of go in order here. So first, starting with the crossing here at LaFont Square, where the bus stops are near LaFont Square and Twining Square here. Then a new crosswalk that we're proposing at Prout Street at number 3. 4 and 5 are related to the access management that we're doing for 25th Street. And then number 6 is also supporting all of this work with adding up a new signal here in the long term. So taking these step by step. So number 1, in our current plan, before we reassessed the location, we had a crosswalk that looked something like this, where it was offset, and there was multiple steps for people to cross the street. The bus stops stayed where they were in these more constrained sidewalk locations. In the revised design, we're straightening out the crosswalk and having it function in one single crossing phase. So riders trying to get to the bus stop and from the bus stop can cross the street all in one signal phase versus having to wait in the median section here. We're proposing moving the bus stop here to the other side of the park now, the expanded public space, to allow more space for pedestrians and bus riders to wait. In the previous plan, the current plan, we did not have a signalized crossing here for pedestrians at Prout Street. In our revised proposed plan, we will have that, and that will help pedestrians from the neighborhood get across the street and have another opportunity to cross Pennsylvania Avenue when they need to. I also want to point out that we're signalizing the right turn lane off of here towards Fairlawn and onto the ramp. So this full crossing will be signalized so that pedestrians won't have to contend with moving vehicles. Design enhancements 4 and 5 are focused on 25th Street. So currently you can make the straight through and then a right turn. Well, the right turn is kind of through here where the existing diagonal roads are. So our current plan was to keep that open. However, noticing and taking a fresh look at all the safety issues and the crashes, and also resident requests along 25th Street, we saw a lot of requests for traffic calming, for the commuter traffic being really intensive along that corridor. So in the interim, we have a couple things planned, but long term, you can still make a right turn off of Pennsylvania Avenue down south to Minnesota Avenue. You will not be able to go through to 25th here, but there's other routes that we've identified and other changes we've proposed to help make that an easier transition for everyone. This helps reduce the conflicts at the intersection, potential crashes, and the crash history that we see here, and will help reduce the number and amount and speed of traffic coming down 25th Street. So this is what the short term will look like. What you'll see probably in the next few months is closing off of this this turn lane down to 25th Street. We'll be blocking that off temporarily until the redesign happens on this side. But drivers trying to access Minnesota Avenue southbound can still take the diagonal down to southbound Minnesota through the park area. Once construction starts over here and then the two-way operation is active on Minnesota Avenue, then conditions will change. And we're doing this because of the crash history here and the complaints and issues that residents have noted to us on 25th Street. It also helps as a win-win with congestion here as well. So closing this off and helping with the access here will help with the concerns that we've heard about congestion here at the main intersection of Pennsylvania and Minnesota. So in looking at this closure, we did examine the most likely routes for traffic to divert. So lots of this traffic that's currently taking 25th Street is trying to get to Naylor Road, essentially. So there's two paths that these vehicles, these commuters can take. That may be 23rd Street, or it may be down 27th Street. But noting that there's a couple signals that they'll need to go through, the most likely short-term routing will be through 23rd Street south to Naylor Road to get back to Naylor and then down to Skyland. So to accommodate this traffic so that we don't increase the backups on Minnesota southbound, we are changing up the signal phasing here at 23rd Street, adding in a dedicated left turn lane, and adjusting the signal itself so that drivers have a dedicated time to make a safe left turn down 23rd Street. Any of the access needs at White and Nicholson Place in the long term, we're looking at installing a signal at White and Nicholson Place, and then converting Nicholson to feed Minnesota Avenue versus in its current condition where it goes away from Minnesota Avenue. So to do this, there's some like off-peak parking, about 5 spaces here between the bus stop and an intersection, removing those so that we can install this turn lane and then maintaining parking on the north side as much as we could. With this, we will need to reroute the D10 bus. This consolidates service on 27th Street, heading southbound, and institutes new stops here along the corridor there. So the bus will make a turn down 27th Street. It will turn down R Street and then back to 25th to reach Naylor and then continue down on its path. Parking will be removed for these new stops and to accommodate the bus turns, but parking will be restored where the previous stops are being moved. 8 total parking spaces are needed for this bus reroute. And we've worked with WMATA, run some bus tests, and it works. For number 6, the current plan at Nicholson and White Place was to install some pedestrian refuge islands here, but maintained uncontrolled crossings and an uncontrolled intersection. For this location long-term, we're looking at installing a signal here for safer crossings for students and families trying to access Boone Elementary and other neighborhood destinations. And then to do this, having residents turn down, you can access 25th this way. So if you turn down Prout Street, Nicholson converted one way toward Minnesota Avenue, and then you can make a left turn up Minnesota to make a right into 25th, or you can go through White Place and then access a block that way. And here's just a visual of that routing here. So turning right off of Pennsylvania onto Prout Street, then converting Nicholson, and Nicholson will then feed Minnesota Avenue with a signalized intersection, and then through that signalized turn, residents can then access 25th Street this way or come through White Place. Okay, I'll pass it back to Julie.
Thanks, Christine. So these are design enhancements that we are proposing for the Pennsylvania-Minnesota intersection project. These design enhancements may be refined depending on stakeholder and community input. We are still, for some of these, we are still designing, and so there may be some changes to those. The construction schedule is currently under development, so more information concerning the closures and impacted blocks will be coming as the construction contractor continues to develop their schedule. And as I said, we do expect construction activity to continue for approximately 2 years. So because this is a high traffic volume intersection, expect longer than normal delays. And we will also work to ensure that there's proper warning signs and maintenance of traffic during construction. So after construction, looking a little bit more in the future, we will be doing a post-project monitoring after construction to continue to evaluate the project and how it's performing. And I also wanted to note that there is an upcoming bus priority project on Pennsylvania Avenue from Barney Circle to Branch Avenue that will cross through this intersection as well. So that's an upcoming separate project. And then we have some upcoming public outreach. We have an in-person public meeting on this Saturday at 11 a.m. at Boone Elementary School. And then for construction, there will be separate continued construction updates as well from the construction team before and during construction. So we expect to have neighborhood flyers, media traffic advisories, door knockers, e-newsletters, and digital updates, and updates at A&T meetings before and during our construction. The website link is here, and then we will also be dropping a Title VI survey link in the chat. And so this is just a plug to please fill out the survey so that we can get a cross-section of who is able to come out to our public meetings. With that, I'm going to hand it back over to Tyler, if you want, and we can open the floor for questions.
Okay, thank you, Christine, and thank you, Julie. Sorry, I didn't realize my video was not on. With that, we are able to take questions. I do just want to make a double plug to please fill out the Title VI survey. That link will be dropped in the chat by Keisha Anderson. If you would like to ask a question out loud, please feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, we can read some of the questions that are in the chat and answer those that way. So if you'd like to ask a question out loud, please feel free to raise your hand. Okay. I see Chris Pascal has his hand up, so we'll start there. Okay, I just elevated you. You should be able to unmute.
Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry for the delay. I was trying to figure out the unmuting situation. Appreciate everyone's time. I live in a neighborhood, and I'm excited about the project. Obviously, I see everyone's concerned. There's some valid concerns being raised in the chat. I noticed that on Minnesota and Pennsylvania Avenue, if you're on Pennsylvania and you try to make a right onto Minnesota, there's like a mini mart on the corner. There's like the post office and some stores there, and then there's the liquor store. And one of the big problems that I always see that causes congestion is that people stop in front of the liquor store to just make a quick run right on Pennsylvania Avenue. And it's not like a designated parking space. It's not like it's sometimes a parking spot, but it happens all the time. And I think that's one of the big concerns in that area is, if you want to make a right on Minnesota, not only do you have, the buses that stop on the corner to pick up, people the bus riders, but then you also have pretty frequently just people that are just pulled up and parked there. So I don't know if there's a solution to that, to perhaps consider parking or enforcement. I don't know, but I do think it's a big issue, exactly where you're pointing at on the map, where the post office is and there's the bus stop adjacent to it. And then the liquor store, I think, is like 2 businesses down. And right there, right before the alleyway, is where cars line up, put their hazards on, and everyone else has to kind of figure it out. And it creates a hazard for pedestrians because people try to swerve around and kind of try to beat the light. And if you don't know the area well, you get confused from turning onto Minnesota to then going up. I think, what is it, 20? What's the other street you can go on there? Exactly, that green line there. What street is that? 25th?
Mhm.
And so
Yep.
sometimes people get confused, and you're right. It is a danger there because not only do we have a lot of pedestrians in the area. I mean, if you know the neighborhood, you got a little bit of everything going on in that little park there sometimes, and so you really have to consider that as well. And so I just hope that when this project takes off, well, I know it's going to take off soon, but these small nuances that are part of the neighborhood are considered in improving what is the flow in that highly trafficked area with buses, pedestrians, businesses, and school nearby. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. So, particularly about the area outside of the liquor store and the post office. So that is a bus stop, and the bus zone is typically about 100 feet long. So anybody who parks or stops their vehicle in the range of that bus stop would be subject to bus enforcement. And that's where we have clear lanes, and there are cameras on the WMATA buses that can enforce cars that are illegally parked in the bus zone. Is that, I'm pretty sure that's the area you're referring to, right?
That's exactly right. So behind the bus stop, in front of the liquor store, so you can see it on the map, Lee's Liquor. You can see
Mhm.
the look
Yep.
right there, all the time.
Okay.
And it's not you're right. The comment from Mr. Musser here, it's not a designated bus lane though. You're right, it's not designated. So cars wait behind the buses when the buses stop there in order to make the right. Maybe making it a designated bus, but I also feel like just coming off the highway, the Pennsylvania traffic, and then people trying to, it's just a lot going on. The congestion there is not necessarily created by the Minnesota and Pennsylvania Avenue intersection. It stems because of the oncoming traffic from 695, just everyone trying to just congregate into that little funnel. And if you're coming off one of the side streets and you're trying to get on the highway, you're then traversing 4 lanes to get on the other side. And that happens. I mean, it's it's a pretty crazy intersection. I really appreciate your work on this because it needs improvement.
Thank you. And it's not, even if it's if the area beyond the actual bus shelter zone is still considered the bus zone, and whether it's a bus lane or not, it's still enforceable. So if a car is stopped on that outer lane within that 100-foot bus zone, it's usually signed where the bus zone begins and ends. If they're within that sign distance, they are subject to enforcement.
Well, I don't think it's ever been enforced because it happens all the time. I figure like, people get, a hand slap once or twice, you might kind of reconsider, but I don't think I think I've seen police officers drive by cars that are parked with their hazards lights on because it's just like a community staple. It's recognized in the community as something that you can do without being enforced. So if that's something you guys are considering to partner with enforcement agencies, please make that part of the project.
Got it. Thank you. Okay. Taking a look at the other hands that are up. I believe the second hand that I saw was Miss Marsh. Give me 1 second to elevate you, Miss Marsh. Okay, Ms. Marsh, you should be able to unmute.
Good evening. My concern about this project is multifaceted. One thing is I frequently travel through that intersection coming from Randall Circle to Pennsylvania Avenue. As you know, we don't really have any infrastructure in terms of grocery stores and the like in this area, so I grocery shop across the Sousa Bridge. I'm concerned about the redesign that has already been funded and that you're already doing, contrary to what the citizens told you they didn't want. I shouldn't say they, we did not want, yet you're doing it anyway. So there's a whole disregard element there. But my concern is that this is not going to make traffic better. That you have failed us multiple times with your redesigns. And one of the most, pardon me, I hope I'm just going to call it what I see. One of the most idiotic designs was the looping between 395 and 295. And if you're going to take that, then you have to take the then you have to cross over all the lanes to exit Pennsylvania Avenue. And GPS directions give you that. I know how to avoid it by getting off at 11th Street. But I think that this is symbolic of you just having transportation funds that have to be expended and that you're doing that. That's my comment. Now, my questions are in the chat, but I'm going to reiterate them. One is, why are you talking to the residents now? It's a done deal, and I just feel really that this is disingenuous. The other thing is crash history. You mentioned any loss of life, any endangerment is sad and heartbreaking. Any of those who have been familiar with some of the emails and communications I made with DDOT know that I'm a data person. What is the date? And y'all tend to fail to render that information, but what is the data to support this? And where is the feasibility study? The feasibility study should have had this data in it. But while I know it's old, because this is an old project, did you update it? Did you update it with the data that substantiates this, what you consider a safety measure, which I really just think it's a spending measure? That's one question. The other question I have is, when were the bus tests run? How many tests were run? What time of day? When and what season? Because I come to that intersection like all the time. As I said, not to grocery shop most often, also to go pick up my prescriptions, whatever. I am making that right turn coming through LaFont Square on a regular basis. So if you could tell me your data sources, also when you give me the data sources, tell me when that data was collected, because that's important.
Thank you, Ms. Marsh. I'm actually going to invite Christine to chime in to answer some of your questions.
Yep. Thank you. So, Ms. Marsh, I have up on the screen here some data that this is MPD crash data. And we look at this regularly. And so you can see this is the data from February of 2021 through February of 2026. So
Hold
as
on,
current as we can get.
hold on, I'm a senior citizen. I can't read that. So just let me try. I'm trying to figure out how to make it larger.
Let's
Okay,
see if I can.
start again,
Um,
please.
Yes. So on the screen here, and we'll be posting this online as well
But I
after the
want the
meeting.
public forum to hear your rationale.
Yes, ma'am. So the data here that we have is from February 2021 through February of this year. So as current as we could get it. We've had 3 fatal crashes in this area. One here near where southbound Minnesota comes through at LaFont Square. One at the BP gas station where a 5-year-old girl was struck by a driver going through the gas station. And then one here around Fairlawn Street and Pennsylvania Avenue. So
Okay,
those are the 3 fatal crashes.
Let me pause you right there. When did those crashes occur? The fatality, when did they occur? Since this is 2021 to 2026.
Yes. So the one with the BP gas station happened in 2025. These other 2, I'll have to get back to you on the dates for those.
Okay, and let me
All
ask
of
you this.
this,
How will this reconstruction of this intersection affect the private property of the BP gas station, people doing shortcuts? How will that halt that?
so let me answer your question on the fatal crashes. Just adding, I'll add in a link to our chat here where there's a dashboard that you can look at all the details of every fatal crash going back to, I think we've got them online back to 2014 or so. So you can look at the details on those. As far as BP gas station impacts, I'll have to hand that off.
Oh, okay, can you answer the question about the bus test? Is that you or someone else?
Yes, I can. So thank you for the reminder on that one. So we were working with WMATA over November and December to plan the bus test, and then they conducted the bus runs in January of this year. So they took the bus both southbound, northbound, and tried turns at the different locations. I think we did about January 10th was the date.
Okay, I may have more questions. So thank you. I look forward to getting the link to the data.
And Ms. Marsh, specifically about the BP gas station, part of the design, there are some openings in that median that's on Pennsylvania Avenue, a few lanes away from the gas station that people can typically cut through. We're actually closing those gaps, so it'll be a single connected median. That's one of the key safety improvements there.
I'm sorry. Let me get a clarification on that. You're closing the gap where LaFont Square is, correct? That's what I thought I read in the rendering. So in the
That's
rendering.
correct. That's correct. But
So-
also this white
Oh.
median right here on the screen.
Okay, you have to be more descriptive because I can't really see that. That's Pennsylvania Avenue median.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct. Yep. So to the left is Minnesota, to the right is Maryland. It's like going towards Maryland.
So the crash occurred with someone, they were cutting through the BP to come from Pennsylvania to Southern, or to Minnesota, or from Minnesota to Pennsylvania?
It was they were traveling from Minnesota out to Pennsylvania, coming through the gas station that way.
Okay, so they actually were, yeah, I mean, that's multiple illegal moves because it's one way at that point. But I don't know, I don't see how closing that median is going to lessen our traffic issue, given the mess that y'all made with those, I don't know, I call them those little flex rod things or whatever. I just can't envision this. I just feel like this is just a spend the money project. It doesn't, and I'm asking for the feasibility study. I'm hoping that one was done and it was updated in all of these years. Was one
So,
done? Was a feasibility study done?
so I'll speak to some of the safety improvements around for this median and the reason behind it. So when we leave the median open, how it is in existing conditions, let me see if I can pull up a map and turn that off. Okay, so I'm gonna zoom in here. This is background for Pennsylvania Avenue, there's currently these median cuts, right? South of the BP station, and then this is away from Minnesota Avenue as you're heading towards 27th Street. There's a couple of gaps in the median that allow drivers to make turns through there, left turns, right turns, or mostly just left turns. But drivers can come through the gas station across these currently, and then that creates a lot of risk and a lot of severe crash conditions here. So in closing those medians, it helps reduce the amount of crashes or the amount of conflicts that happen along Pennsylvania Avenue. And we're hoping that this piece of the project will help reduce the crashes that we see of people crossing over and trying to make those turns.
Well, I can see that rationale. I'm just not understanding LaFont Square. I have a major issue with that.
Is the issue with the closing of LaFont Square, creating just one singular plaza?
Yes.
Okay, you mind elaborating? I'm sorry. Do you mind just as a last point? Do you mind elaborating on that a little bit more, and then we have to get to other questions?
Yeah, I go into the other questions. I've got an
Okay.
urgent thing happening here, so go into the other questions. I'll circle back. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
I hope. Okay, I think the next hand that I saw was Marie Fritz. I am allowing you to unmute now.
Hi, everybody. This is Marie Fritz. I live in Ward 7. I live up the street in Penn Branch. And so this area is sort of the primary area that many of my neighbors travel through, many children, and also my spouse and myself bike through the area to get to the metro. And so I have a bunch of questions that I'll probably bring to the meeting on Saturday. But I guess the first one is I wonder why it's taken so long to re-engage the community. Ola knows that me and two neighbors, along with the late Miss Alberta Paul, spoke to DDOT at DDOT about this in 2018, and we have not heard anything since then. So I guess that's my first question. At that meeting, we were concerned about the lack of pedestrian and cycling safety infrastructure, and I'm just not sure that what we're seeing is enough enhancements to improve safety. My other question is, could you explain exactly where, like, I don't know who can go through it, exactly where the sidewalks will be widened? Because on the website, there's not a lot of detail. It just sort of has an image, and then there's sort of the, you can click and find out more. And so I'd like to know exactly where the sidewalks will be widened. And then third, I guess, is more of a comment, and that is, Ola, when we were talking with you at that meeting, I remember I was actually standing up at the screen pointing out how dangerous the intersections are to the off-ramp and the on-ramp for 295 at Pennsylvania Ave. And I was told over and over and over and over again that this project has a very limited area, and it's only going to be this very small zone between maybe Prout and 27th Street. And now we see all of these enhancements up 25th, up 27th, down Minnesota. And so I want to know why these changes haven't been brought back to the community since then. Because, I mean, you and your team were emphatic that this was a very limited project. And now we're seeing all these other changes that were never discussed with the community. I'll bring my questions to the meeting on Saturday. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Fritz. I think Ola would like to address the delays.
Yes, good evening. Thank you, Mrs. Fritz, for your questions and comments. Apologies on behalf of DDOT. We actually, due to utility coordination and conflicts, we had an extensive coordination with Washington Gas, Pepco, and DC Water. And because of that, the plans had to be shelved until we can coordinate and figure out these conflicts. With that being said, I recall you and other residents coming to DDOT office and expressing your concerns to us. At that time, we were limited to just the area from Prout Street to about 200 feet west of 27th Street. Now, as time had progressed and the area has changed and additional funding also became available, we were able to see if additional safety improvements as well as operational improvements could be made within the surrounding adjacent streets and intersection. So we have been coordinating, and we were waiting on, there were different with the shutdowns and funding restrictions. We were only able to engage with the public now, and that is what we're doing now.
So it sounds like there hasn't been any engagement with the public on the changes to 27th, the changes south of Minnesota. I mean, we were aware of the kind of, I don't know, that weird lane that went through L'Enfant Square. And I think many people at previous meetings were supportive of bringing it to a more traditional intersection because that would reduce the conflict near the hair supply store with the two roadways that connect. That was always really dangerous is dangerous for pedestrians and cyclists. But I guess I'm just still surprised that you are able to move forward with these other changes without having gotten feedback or buy-in from the ANC.
Yes, so another stakeholder in this as part of this project is WMATA, and with WMATA's rerouting and new bus alignment, we had to coordinate with them too. And this gave us the opportunity to look and see what else could be done and what else could be better improved in the area. So that included the rerouting of the route D10 and better looking at at 25th Street and what can be done there.
Could you explain the decision to work on those intersections rather than the on and off ramps at 295?
I can take that one.
Since there was additional funding available.
So these the funding that Ola's talking about is through the Traffic Safety Administration. So we applied our funding to look at how we could improve the existing design within the constraints that we had, and then we would take on some of the changes through our projects and our funding streams that would help support the changes that we're seeing at 25th Street, and then the new signal down at White Place in Nicholson. Because these are both high injury network corridors, we didn't really have as concentrated of a focus for high injury network corridors prior to when this project started, and then up until more recently. Now we've got dedicated staff and focus on safety for these intersections, and especially for bigger projects like this. So to support the 25th Street kind of rerouting The Traffic Safety Administration is recommending some of these changes that we're working with and trying to kind of dovetail with the main project that's happening. But as we are one DDOT, we wanted to present this all as one project. So the rerouting of the bus coming down 27th Street, the turn lane at 23rd Street, the new signal at Nicholson and White Place, and others are all things that we have been looking at to support this project and try and create a safer project overall, while other things are still happening in the background, like the bus priority project as well.
Thanks, Christine, and thank you, Ola, for that response. And so I guess just one final question, because I know that you probably have many questions, and I'm hoping that Commissioner Travis Swanson is here, because I believe the area with the changes on 25th Street is his part of the neighborhood. So in addition to getting more detail on the sidewalks, that would be great. I don't know if that could be shared on the website, you know, about exactly how wide they will be. I didn't see that anywhere. You mentioned that there is still the possibility that the bus priority project, it's still planned and will cross the Sousa Bridge, so that's exciting. Are there any plans to incorporate cycling infrastructure, which was also part of the small area plan that the DC Council passed in 2024?
So the plan that we have here does not preclude any, it does not exclude any future enhancements. So one that we know that is actively planned now that will kick off probably later this year is the bus priority project. Again, that will kick off this year, so we don't have a concept or any type of design or any type of visual of what that will look like. But what we're presenting here would not prohibit us from being able to consider this intersection in this corridor for future improvements, be it bus or bike or bike.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. And thanks, Ola, especially. We miss Ms. Alberta here up in the neighborhood, and I know that you were close with her. So we're thinking about her DDOT family as well.
Thank you so much. And to respond to your question in regards to the sidewalk width, we are going to, along Pennsylvania Avenue, we will be extending the sidewalks to 10-foot wide sidewalks. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Okay, the next person that I have with their hand up is Ryan, and I do not want to mispronounce your last name, but it begins with an M. Muser, maybe? You should be able to unmute now.
Yes, Musser.
Musser, my apologies.
Yep. No worries. That was closer than people sometimes get. All right, so I have just a few questions to run through. Forgive my toddler if you hear him in the background. So for people trying to get off, trying to get to Naylor Road and Skyland from Pennsylvania Avenue, they were taking 25th. If I understand you correctly, you're saying that you will now anticipate them turning right onto Minnesota and then going either up 23rd or Naylor. Is that correct?
That's correct. So people can either stay on Pennsylvania and make a right-hand turn on 27th, but we think the more likely scenario is that they'll take Minnesota down to 23rd, and with a new dedicated left turn lane, come down 23rd and then reach Naylor Road that way.
Okay. So traffic on 23rd will probably increase.
Yes.
Okay. And then for just to make sure I understand from the chat, in terms of the changing direction of Nicholson, that last block on Nicholson, and then people coming up White Place. You're anticipating that that's only for local people trying to get to 25th Street, not commuter traffic?
Yes, we don't anticipate commuter traffic to take this route because in the full build out here, you can still make a right turn. Let me see, let me get to that one. We can still maintain a right turn lane. Here we go. Okay. From Pennsylvania to southbound Minnesota, but right now, because it's only this segment between LaFont Square up to Pennsylvania on Minnesota, it's only one way. We think that it's likely people will come down and make their
Okay. So it's during the temporary work that people might um cut through White Place.
So we're not changing Nicholson until we install the signal. That way those two can be coordinated together. In the interim, Nicholson will remain one way away from Minnesota Avenue. And we will put in some bollards to kind of block so people aren't making left turns into and trying to cut down White Place. We do want to focus that commuter traffic on locations that are more equipped to handle it. Like you noted, White Place is really narrow, Nicholson is as well. So 23rd, we want to focus all that commuter traffic. If they have to come through this area, they're doing it via 23rd, not using White Place.
Okay, because I just want to stress. So I live at the corner of White and Park, and I definitely notice whenever something happens on Minnesota, people coming down 23rd Street always try to cut off of 23rd and then go through Park and White Place, and they come flying through there in this narrow street. Actually got speed bumps installed on both of them to try and slow people down. And it's I worry that people will continue to try things like that.
Yeah, if like Julie noted, we will be monitoring this during and after construction and perform an evaluation of the project afterwards, like we have been doing with all other corridor and high injury network projects. So we'll be looking at these locations as well and also monitoring. We have the TSI program. We do still prioritize locations through that for other traffic safety improvements, but yes, we'll monitor all of these.
Okay. I want to speak for my wife and say that she will be so excited about that traffic light at Nicholson, because uh, almost every day she goes down to the river, and every day complains about trying to get across those crosswalks and people stopping for her. Nobody stops for her. So we're huge fans of that stoplight there. On kind of a similar note, but a question for the stoplight on Pennsylvania, just before I get like closest to the highway. Also a fan of building out that infrastructure for pedestrians to cross. I do wonder if like what sort of impact that's going to have in terms of backing up traffic across the bridge um, and people trying to get off the highway, because that's already backs up a ton during rush hour. How do you think that will impact that?
Yeah, we're looking at the signal phasing between the two intersections, and we have a regular optimization that happens. And our signal team that leads that optimization has been involved in this. So they are aware, and we are trying to make all of these signals work together at the main Pennsylvania, Minnesota, at LaFont Square, and then at this kind of new crossing along Fairlawn or Prout or Prout, I heard it
Wow.
called. So yeah, so all of these will work together in the future, and considering all of the traffic that is coming off of both the Sousa Bridge and the 295 ramps.
Okay. And then last question, just I bike up 25th with my toddler on the way to daycare, so I'm happy for traffic to be even less on that. But I do wonder, like 27th already backs up a ton, especially during morning rush hour, when people are coming down from Skyland and Hillcrest and trying to turn on to Pennsylvania. And so I wonder how I would imagine that diverting more traffic on the 27th is gonna, like, I just wonder if it can handle that much.
Yeah, we looked at a number of scenarios. We tried to be least impactful on residential parking, and we noticed that there were some along 27th that seemed like it might have been pretty important on these sides that are not peak hour restricted. But I mean, we did look at extending the turn lanes here. It's a narrow street. There's not many other options. We looked at the entire network going from 28th and over to 29th Street for diversion and where we expected traffic to go to and from. Kind of did like a small area analysis to see, but it seemed like both northbound and southbound traffic probably wouldn't go, well, northbound would not likely go up to 27th because, like you're noting, it's already stacking up in the peak hours, but may instead route down Naylor and then use other larger streets to navigate through. But yeah, we did notice that there was a very high volume of left turning traffic going north on 27th trying to access Pennsylvania Avenue. So we are trying to extend the turn lane, that kind of middle one that is currently really short, can only fit like 2 cars, as you're aware, just to have a bit more storage there. But ultimately, yeah, we wanted to try and balance out parking removal and traffic operations for this.
Okay, thanks. I know this isn't your purview, and neither is it really realistic. But I think one of the what would really solve a lot of the problems around traffic is if there was a metro stop and line that came over here. But I know that that's obviously not part of the conversation.
Thank you. The next participant that I'll be allowing to unmute is Dr. Patricia Howard Chittims. And you should be able to unmute now.
Awesome, thank you. Just a couple of things. One, the 5-year-old did not get injured in 2025. That occurred in January of 2024. And it was on the property of the BP station. It was not in the driving lanes. So we need to be very clear about where that occurred and when that occurred. And so a couple of questions that I have. First of all, I was an ANC in 7B when DDOT first came to us about this rebuild of this intersection. And we were explicitly clear about the things that we wish to see as representatives of the community. What is frustrating to me, and as Ms. Marsh also said, is that here we are at the 11th hour, and now you're telling us all these wonderful things that you've done. And at no time have you listened to our elected officials who are kind of chafing at the bit to really let you know what the people in the community want. For example, when I was the ANC down near 27th Street, we approved that building with all of those townhouses because we understood that there was going to be parking there for those individuals. And then DDOT, in their infinite wisdom, came through and took away all of the parking. Minnesota Avenue is a parking lot, right? It has become less safe since your last DDOT rebuild. So I have very, very, very little confidence that you all are going to do anything to our best interests. But I do a specific question. You all are redirecting traffic onto streets that were not built for heavy traffic. You are also redirecting bus lines onto streets that were not built to have these heavy buses running up and down. Has there been any vibration monitoring in these communities or inspections of these homes as a result of this? That's the first question. I take it by your silence that you have not done vibration monitoring. Thank you. Because these homes, right, were not built for that. And the infrastructure underneath of it, the depth of the roadway was not built for buses to be running up and down the street, as well as the increased traffic. And these homes will be damaged. Is DDOT, I would advise anyone who has a home on any of these streets, 23rd Street, White Place, any of them, get your home inspected so that you can sue when the cracks start appearing. Secondarily, have you done a traffic impact analysis in these smaller streets?
So I'll take that one. In looking at the redesign pieces that we're proposing here, we did look at the traffic impacts and where they were more likely. So that's what we're showing here, is that most of the traffic is likely to go down 23rd Street.
And again, I'm going to follow up right behind Ms. Marsh. We want to see the data. Unfortunately, DDOT does not have a very good reputation of telling us the truth. So we do want to see the data. I also note that you said that you're going to have 10-foot wide sidewalks on Pennsylvania Avenue. And that sounds fabulous because it gives more room for people to hang out in front of the liquor store and the post office and drink and do untoward things. What are you going to do about that?
Well,
I take it you have not considered that.
the
So
wider
moving on.
sidewalks, Dr.
I'm
Chittum,
sorry, Tyler, go ahead.
thank you. The wider sidewalks are because this is a major transit hub. The bus routes that have the stops there and that also run along this route are always full. And then we also have a variety of folks that are commuting using those sidewalks. So, I mean, enforcement of illegal behavior is the responsibility of the Metropolitan Police Department. It's not something that we would have enforcement oversight over. Our enforcement oversight truly ends at that the bus enforcement with the cameras on the buses if cars are illegally parked in a bus zone. But the sidewalks are intended to serve as a transportation amenity for those that are commuting via different modes, either by bike, either by walking, or by transit.
Okay, what my concern is, and I'm a driver, okay, and I have to drive for my job, and I see people all over the city, and this intersection, based upon, I mean, you're going to put a traffic light there at 27th Street. You're going to slow down traffic even more. You're going to cause more health conditions as a result of the increased traffic idling in the streets. So while you say you're trying to get people out of their cars and onto buses, what's happening is a traffic jam. And in the summertime, even in the wintertime, especially since nobody knows how to shovel snow anymore in this city, you're going to have cars just sitting there idling. And we already have the highest asthma rates in this city in Ward 7 and 8. What is
We
your
definitely
purpose?
we don't acknowledge. I mean, we don't deny that during peak hours, during rush hour, traffic will be backed up. That is the name of the game with rush hour. The priority here is improving safety of these intersections. As we previously mentioned, some of these intersections are in the top 50 worst intersections of our city. So
Data.
improving
Data.
yeah, we can provide that. Would you like the list of 50 intersections?
Yes, if you could put the links in the chat, I think more than myself would be interested in actually reading the data behind this and this decision-making process. Have you brought this before the ANC 7B specifically? And I think across is, what is that? Is that AA on the other side? Have you brought it to them?
Yes, we met with them, I think maybe 2 weeks ago now. And then because of the scope of work that the changes that the smaller changes that we made to the overall scope of work, the overall scope of work is remaining mostly the same, but some of the more expansive safety enhancements that we're doing are largely responsive to the countless TSIs that we have received for these different locations. Something that is consistent with us responding to TSIs that have been prioritized is to issue an NOI to the ANC. I'm sure you're familiar with those. So an NOI has been issued to the ANCs after we met with them a couple of weeks ago. And that NOI process is open now. It's open. I can't remember the deadline, but I can get the deadline for you and drop it in the chat as well. So if anybody would like to submit their comments to the NOI process, their formal comments in the NOI process, we welcome that. We can drop the NOI in the chat. We can also provide the deadline in the chat as well.
While I may be familiar with what those are, it is never appropriate to use acronyms and assume that everyone knows what you're talking about. So I would appreciate if you would go back and spell it out what you're saying so that others can understand.
You are absolutely right. So a TSI is a traffic safety input, and this is our way of allowing the community to help us see what we don't see on our local roads. So traffic safety improvements, we prioritize about 800 of them, and it's based on objective factors. And we've received a large number of traffic safety requests for this intersection, this general area, and they have been prioritized. And we are able to add safety enhancements to this project because of the number of traffic safety improvements that we've received. Now, because we were able to prioritize those traffic safety improvements, one of the ways that the biggest way that we notify the ANC is through the notice of intent process. That is that's what I was referring to when I said NOI. And my apologies, you're absolutely right. I should not be using an acronym. The notice of intent process is a formal letter written to the ANCs. It was provided to both ANC 8A and ANC 7B maybe 2 weeks ago. And that allows for a comment period that will allow public comment. The ANCs are to solicit comments from their constituencies and then provide their formal response, usually in the form of an ANC resolution, a formal letter sharing their support or opposition to something, or just a general summary of the responses that they received related to the notice of intent.
Thank you. Now, also, I notice you're going to be closing up some of the cut-throughs, and you're going to make it much more difficult for individuals to get to gas stations, to get to stores, etc. Have you looked at the financial impact on the businesses in this area with all of these changes?
The cut-throughs that we are which businesses are you referring to specifically? You're talking about Mario's? And
there's Mario's, absolutely Mario's. You're talking about the gas stations, both the BP and the Shell. There's also usually during the summer, there's like a flea market across the street right next to the BP gas station. There's several businesses along there that will be negatively impacted, as well as the dentist and the Thai Orchid. All of these things are going to be negatively impacted by the plans that you all have.
Okay. Actually, one of our chief transportation safety engineers would like to chime in with the response. Yelima, you're welcome to unmute.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I'm the Deputy Director of DDOT. Thank you so much for spending the time and actually coming and listening to us. I would like to address the comment about impact to businesses, and I'm assuming economical and financial impact. DDOT's primary goal is to make sure that all modes of travel, especially the vulnerable road users who are walking and biking, are safe. That's our primary goal. Um, we are not in the business of ensuring financial impact. While we consider that, that's not our primary goal. So in this case, one of the fatalities that happened, you're right, it did happen on a property, but it happened because somebody was trying to cut through the gas station to avoid traffic. So they're trying to get from Minnesota, Pennsylvania, and trying to avoid traffic and cutting through the gas station. So this project will close certain medians that will not allow this illegal behavior. Yes, would it reduce the amount of total revenue for the gas station? Absolutely, but that's okay. We'd rather
Okay,
not have people die.
thank you very much. And also, you said that you're going to continue to monitor this over time. Um, I I don't understand. I need you to help me to understand what the continuation of monitoring is. Because when we protested the narrowing of Minnesota Avenue, and I, for one, with the lead person for this, pointed out that it was going to cost somebody their life or their property. And we've had 3 homes burned down due to the fact that fire departments can't get through. Nobody's ever come back. We've circled back, and we get nothing. So what guarantees do you have? I mean, kind of like, the Wendy's circle, which is still a mess after the fact, that you're actually going to change anything if it doesn't work.
You can take that.
Yep.
Or do you want to talk about it, Nalima?
No, you go for it, Christine.
So we have a project evaluation process. Go ahead and pull up our before after evaluation hub site. So this is a website where you can look at all the projects where we've completed a study of before after conditions to get a sense of what we're looking at. So I'll pull up one. So we look through crashes, ridership, what traffic conditions look like before and after. If it's including bus facilities, then we'll include ridership or bus speeds, and so on. So it's a pretty robust process, and so we'll be looking at it through all of these factors here. And I'll add the link to this website in the chat.
And my last comment is this. I know things tend to look good on paper, but everything doesn't always work. I've spent a lot of time in school and I know theory. I know it backwards, forwards, and sideways. But I also know that things can go bad very quickly. And no matter your best intentions, somebody still may lose their life.
Yeah, that's certainly true. We've seen it play out. We can design a road as safely as we can, and a dangerous driver comes through and harms someone. What we're trying to do here is, to the extent that we can affect this behavior and that we can slow people down, and that we are forcing people to act more safely in this very multimodal, transit heavy environment. That's our goal here for this project, and then to further build on that with the bus priority project that's coming through.
Okay, well,
I
thank you
appreciate
very
your
much. I'm sure the businesses will be glad to know you guys don't care.
Tyler, if you're talking, I think you're on mute.
Oh, my apologies. I think there's one more hand raised, and I think I just gave them permission to unmute. I believe the name is Tuan Bo.
Hello, thank you. Hi, Tyler. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. Um, just try to make this as quick as possible. There's a lot to digest here. There is a lot. Um, so I can understand Minnesota Avenue. Currently on the south side of Pennsylvania Avenue, I think it's 3 lanes wide, with one being parking available. And I think on the north side, well, it's 2 lanes in front of the BP. So,
Pull up a map for you, wait.
okay.
Okay, so I have it here. Let me see if I can turn off my lights.
Let me know when you're ready.
Okay, yep,
Okay. So on the north side of Pennsylvania Avenue, Minnesota Avenue is 2 lanes in front of the
yes.
BP.
Mm-hmm.
And on the south side is 3 lanes.
Correct, yep.
So the new proposal is for Minnesota Avenue traffic to go straight across, be able to travel in both directions going straight across.
Correct, yes.
I just want to confirm, because I can tell by the illustration, that Minnesota Avenue is going to be 5 lanes at Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yes, that is what the design would have, to consolidate the green space there. The southbound and northbound directions would travel, just like all the other streets in DC, having two-way traffic through the intersection for both Pennsylvania and Minnesota.
Right. What I think 1 lane is going to be a turning lane to go
The-
from Minnesota Avenue onto Pennsylvania Avenue.
We're maintaining 3 in the northbound direction. 2 of them, let me zoom in here if you can see. So this is the future design. So 2 of them are northbound, going past the Hip Hop Fish and Chicken, would be left turn lanes to go on to Pennsylvania. And then in the southbound direction, it'll be 3 lanes, 2 right turn lanes heading towards Pennsylvania as well. And those will be coordinated with the signal so that, there's not overlap for those.
So there's no opportunity for someone traveling on Minnesota Avenue southbound to make a left turn onto Pennsylvania Avenue.
They can, yeah. So we have a southbound turn lane that's a through lane and a left turn lane. When we looked at more recent data that we collected in the fall, when we took traffic counts at this location and others, we saw that on the weekend there's about 75 people making that turn. Weekdays it's between 44 and 55 people. So we are still allowing that left turn to happen from southbound Minnesota to is that eastbound Pennsylvania.
Okay. And from the illustration, there's no separation between the north and southbound lanes on Minnesota Avenue, meaning there's no median,
Right.
nothing,
There's no
nothing.
median plan. Right. It'd be
Okay.
a kind of double yellow, just like you see other places.
And that's 5 lanes going across, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's
So
correct, yes.
that's going to be a considerable amount of chopping going to be done to the park space, to the green space that's already there, including the trees that's there.
pull up
In
the,
order to have 5 lanes, you're gonna have to do some cutting into the park space that's already there, right?
Julie, do you want to take this one or Ola?
Because the lane is about 8 feet wide. I'm not
Yeah.
sure how long,
Yes. Good
right?
evening, Mr. Bell. That's correct. You're so if you're traveling southbound along Minnesota, the green space area, which is currently NPS land where the Minnesota slip lane is, will be consolidated, and part of that consolidation is cutting through, so removing some of that area so that we can have Minnesota Avenue in 2 directions.
Yeah, that's considerable amount of chopping. All right, my second item is 27th Street in reference to the D10 bus going Pennsylvania Avenue didn't happen to turn onto 27th Street, up 27th Street to R Street to 25th to access Nella Road. I know you said WMATA did some driving through in order to test that. However, I know from personal experience driving a large vehicle, it is very difficult to make a right turn from Pennsylvania Avenue onto 27th Street and sit there, especially if it's rush hour, while the traffic on the northbound side releases so the bus can go through. So there was a resident that made a comment about traffic jams and traffic being backed up. In this circuit of 25th, Minnesota, Prout, Nicholson, Park, White Place, it seems as though we're taking away traffic from one community or one block and throwing it in other blocks. So you're just gonna have traffic somewhere else, just not on that particular street. What are we doing? What are we doing? Nicholson Street, White Place, a traffic like there. That sounds great. That really does. Now we're just gonna make the residents on Nicholson Street complain about the increased traffic from Prout Street going up Nicholson Street. Just like the people on 25th Street had concerns. So you're just shifting the concerns from one street to another. What are we doing? The turn from White Place onto Park is very, very tight. But from your plans, we're going to allow traffic. We're going to open up the floodgates so they can go that way and make that turn at White Place and Park. Park is a one-way. It's so tight. If someone park, it's just, we're creating something that we're not prepared for. And I say we because I'm a neighbor. We. Hashtag, what are we doing? Minnesota Avenue, southbound to Pennsylvania Avenue. Someone wants to make a left turn onto 25th Street to go up the hill. Can they do that? I don't know. Will they do it? The answer is yes. By hook or crook, they're going to do it. 295 northbound, off-ramp to Pennsylvania Avenue. Northbound 295, off-ramp to Pennsylvania Avenue right before you get to Prout Street. People trying to access the far left lanes onto Pennsylvania Avenue. It's like dodgeball. Where's the traffic like there? The same as the off-ramp from the Southeast Southwest Freeway onto Sousa Bridge. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. So why not put the light traffic light there so the cars don't have to play dodgeball northbound 295 getting off of Pennsylvania Avenue? I know we talked about fatalities, but we didn't talk about the accident that was right there 3 weeks ago. Car overturned. Playing dodgeball. Hashtag, what are we doing? Are we looking at this stuff in reality, or are we looking at numbers? What are we looking at? We want more green space for the kids in the park, but if a lane is 8 feet wide and you're going to have to make at least 3 more of them and take away 3 trees that's in the park because I see them all the time, how much green space is left? Hashtag, what are we doing? That's all I got. See you Saturday.
Okay.
Thank you for your concerns. Again, as we continue to improve the area and the intersection, and I actually just wanted to add to your earlier question in regards to the green space. Though we are consolidating it, we are removing the slip lanes and turning that into green space as well. So it's still about the same amount of green space that there is currently today. It's just um, it's just geometrically changed for a better use. One big green space north of Pennsylvania and a smaller, more usable green space south of Pennsylvania. Again, as we have stated, we have done extensive study and we hear all your concerns. And like a resident did say, sometimes what's on paper doesn't always look good, which is why our team will continue to monitor the improvements that we are implementing after they've been constructed as well, to see if there is additional improvements that can be done or need to be changed, whether it's operational or safety. Thank you.
I will try to address the second question, Mr. Bowe. I think you talked about moving the problem around. Unfortunately, people are traveling where they're traveling, and we can't change that. People don't disappear, or vehicles don't disappear, unless we make transit and biking and walking so easy and safe that people will consider switching from using cars, because cars take a lot of space. You can move a lot more number of people using other modes. However, that's a long-term issue. I hear you. We are moving the problem to a different place. However, sometimes that is the option we have, because if you look at, Christine, if you can pull up what the intersection looks like now, Minnesota Avenue, 25th Street, Pennsylvania Avenue, there are 2 intersections essentially at one location, and the amount of crosswalks that put pedestrians in such vulnerable state at a very confusing location where a lot is happening. So we want to reduce the amount of stuff happening in one location, because it's just too much for a driver or a pedestrian or a biker to understand. So we're trying to make it less confusing, more aligned with what you would expect at an intersection. And also, as you can see, the pedestrian crosswalks are more consolidated. They're not as slanted. So it is an improvement by moving things around where it is slightly safer to do so. But it's not a perfect solution. We're aware of that.
Okay. Thank you for your question, Mr. Bowe. And we have time for a few more questions. So I see Commissioner Aaron Harris has his hand up. You should be able to unmute now, Commissioner Harris.
Hello, good evening. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So my first question is DDOT operating as a community partner?
Yes, we strive to operate as a community partner.
I'm asking because as I've listened over the last about hour and a half, I've heard a lot of reasons why you were not able to engage the community for such a long time. But at the same time, I heard a lot of conversations about engaging WMATA and PEPCO, Washington Gas. So if there were impediments in engaging the community, why weren't there impediments in engaging the agencies? Is the first thought that comes to mind. And after you engage these agencies, and as the scope of the project began to change, how come people weren't reached out to? I heard a lady earlier, I forget her name. She said she spoke with you guys back in 2018. So you're aware of her. It sounds like at least one of the people on the panel was very close to a member of her community that came to speak. So I'm just trying to figure out, how are you striving to be a community partner? Because from what it sounds like, from most of the people who have called in or who are listening right now, they're being dictated to as to what's happening. Can you help me understand better of how you're striving and how this project has gone this way?
Certainly. So this technically qualifies as a kind of a pre-construction meeting where we provide an overview of the final design and a brief overview of what construction will be like before we have more specifics about the block by block construction schedule. In terms of engaging the utilities, so anytime we do major infrastructure work, we put a call out to utilities for them to be able to upgrade their infrastructure so that we aren't opening up the road. Well, we aren't opening up the road doing our work, improving the infrastructure, improving an intersection, improving a roadway, and then the utility company comes behind us and reopens the road to do that. So that type of partnership, it starts at the very beginning of the process. And in this particular case, the utility coordination took an unexpectedly long amount of time. It took much longer than we could have anticipated. And we do acknowledge that there were major gaps in engagement during that time while we let those utilities get in and upgrade their infrastructure before we proceeded with our work. It is definitely something that we should have done more frequently throughout the process. Like this project is still on our work plan, but Washington Gas is here. This project is still on our work plan, but PEPCO is here. This project is still on our work plan, but DC Water is here, etc. So that the type of engagement, it's something that we're doing throughout the project because we need them to complete their work so that we can complete our work. Now with WMATA, anytime we're talking about relocating a bus, it's kind of a mother may I posture. We need their permission. So we want to make sure that they can access the roads that we are intending to route them down. We want to make sure that they can make the turns and what's needed to ensure that they can make those turns, be it setbacks or any changes to signals or upgrades to curbside or upgrades to bus stops. So that's why those partnerships, that communication from a technical review standpoint is ongoing throughout the project lifecycle.
So it sounds like what you have is a closed process. So you will engage initially, and then it seems like the doors have been closed while all of these things are going on. Because the thing that comes to my mind is when WMATA finally gets back to you, or PEPCO or Washington Gas, at bare minimum, an update can be available that this has been approved or this is what's happening. Dashboards are very popular with a lot of district agencies where people don't have to call you or email you. They can actually go and they can track it because they're concerned. So at a lot of DDOT meetings, I often hear, apologies for lack of communication and, we strive to be a community partner and we'll do better next time. But it rings hollow, frankly. I understand this is a process meeting where you're explaining this is what we're thinking about. But from what it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, this project has been decided that it's going to move forward. Am I correct? as it is presented.
You are correct. I mean, we are in the notice of intent process, the NOI process. So there is an open comment period where there's an opportunity for very small tweaks, but the design as presented is presumably the final design.
Right. And thankful for what we get. But again, that leads back to my initial question. Are you a true community partner? Is that how DDOT is operating? Because what it sounds like is, hey, we've made our decision. You guys can comment on some small things, but don't expect major changes. And my real question is, how and when will the community be a part of the major decision making as you guys strive to be community partners?
Hi, Mr. Harris. Thank you for your comments, and we do feel your sentiments. We are a community. We go to the community and for their input, and their concerns as well. That's how some of these safety improvements were even added onto the project. The core project back in 2018, as some residents have stated, they were there, they were a part of it. They even came to DDOT to let us know even more of their concerns, and we were limited in what we could do through the environmental study that was done. Part of our coordination with stakeholders is to see where their infrastructures are, how adequate or inadequate their infrastructures are, and if they even have the funding to improve or move their infrastructure. And as DDOT also wants to do safety improvements, this is the opportunity for other stakeholders, utility companies to say, okay, our infrastructure may be outdated. Yes, please let us help attach our projects or needs onto this project as well. So we need to get that organized and a plan before we go out to the community, because if we go out to the community prior to even understanding what needs to be done, we really won't have responses or be able to engage the community how we want and have their input. So unfortunately, this project had a lot of utility coordination that delayed us going back to the community in such a long time span.
It may have delayed you coming back to the community, but it did not delay you from developing a complete plan. And that's really the crux of the issue that maybe we won't talk about it directly, but that's what I'm trying to talk about.
Okay.
I hear you. This is Neelima again. I wish that went differently. I see where you're coming from. I understand. The way we approach this project is this is a high injury network intersecting corridor. One of the a lot of injuries and severe injuries and fatalities have occurred. So this is our one opportunity to make it better. So we took that opportunity with the additional funds we have for safety, with focus on HIN from Federal Highway. But however, I do see what you're saying.
Ms. Gantz, I'm glad you chimed in, because two things. 8 years ago, there was a very limited amount that could be done because of certain constraints. Fast forward 8 years, there's very little that can be done because of certain constraints. And in the meantime, this got done. And that's interesting. The reason I'm very glad that you chimed in was your callousness about the health of a business was startling. Yes, we can say life is more important than business. I don't think anyone's going to disagree with that. But when you're talking about an area that is not always as economically healthy as other wards, for you to speak that callously about it losing business, what happens if that business closed down and then it's dilapidated, it's an eyesore, etc. And it was very telling in your tone when you spoke about that. So I don't have any more comments. I think I've gotten the answers that I need. Please continue to engage us. And I look forward to the day where we are true community partners.
My apologies if my tone came across callously. I was a junior engineer that worked on this project in 2011 while I was pregnant with my kid, and I almost got hit by a truck that was cutting through that gas station while I was trying to look at how things were working, observing traffic, observing pedestrians, transit users, and all of that. So this is me not speaking callously, me speaking about a person on foot is a lot more vulnerable than an SUV that's rushing through a gas station, cutting through to avoid a signal. And that happens a lot here. And I've seen it in person.
Yes,
That's
but you're
what we're
speaking
doing.
from a position of power where you have some control over that. You had that experience, you're in a position to change it. And I think a lot of people in the community are saying we have our own experiences and we want to be empowered to make change as you are.
Understood.
And I just want to chime in that many in the community do know about transportation systems. So not engaging the community and moving full force through with a project is disingenuous and unfair.
Received. Ms.
I
Marsh.
prefer the word paternalistic.
Received. We do have one remaining hand raised, and that's Miss Barbara Morgan. You are. Oh, I think she may have removed her hand. Okay. I just would also like to. Oh, I think it's back. Sorry. Let me unmute her. Miss Morgan, you should be able to speak.
Okay, go ahead. It's unfortunate that you all have not come to us. We have been a part of this going back years ago when Yvonne Moore and I were chairpersons for the Pennsylvania Avenue project. Now, a lot of things you all did, you did not come back to the community because we held meetings. And the thing about it was, we had 3 lanes coming in the mornings and 3 lanes going out on Pennsylvania Avenue. You put that medium strip there, that was not what the community wanted. So the more I hear and the more I listen to what you're saying, you want us to buy your bill of sales, but you don't follow up with us when we ask you to do these things. Just like Minnesota Ave from Pennsylvania Avenue going all the way back. Someone mentioned we've had 2 fires. One house on one corner and the other one near Kimball School. You need to do away with those lanes. It's terrible in the mornings. Get out there and you will see. In the mornings coming from Benning Road going over to Pennsylvania Avenue, and the evenings coming from Pennsylvania Avenue going all the way over to Minnesota Avenue, the traffic is horrendous. All of that stuff you put there, you need to take it out. Now, I sat on at one time on the 6th District Advisory for MPD, and I asked them if you all ever came to them to ask for their input. It has never happened. That's not the way you conduct business. I'm also a native Washingtonian. And I just do not like the way things are being handled now in the city.
Thank you for your comment, Ms. Morgan.
It's more than a comment, I want something done about it.
To make sure I understand, is the priority your question about the lanes on Minnesota Avenue?
Yes.
Okay.
And you have never, ever come to, because I have asked the commanders who have been commanders of the 6th District, they know nothing about these changes. And also we have asked some of the fire department. They don't know about nothing because you all don't consult with them. You sit in your ivory towels and we are supposed to buy whatever you throw at us. That's not the way you conduct business, and that's not the way you do us as citizens. Do any of you live in Ward 7? Do you live in the city?
Yes, ma'am, I do, and many of the staff do here.
What wards?
Ward 4?
Okay, I moved from 4 to Ward 6, and then from 6, I moved to Ward 7 when there was no Penn branch. That's how long I've been over here.
I would like to note that at least for the past 2 years that I've been in this role, we have engaged with the fire and emergency management team pretty frequently, and they are people that we get feedback from for all of our projects.
Is that open for us to look at that record? Who did you talk to?
It's usually by way of meeting, and I'd have to look back in our records, but it's usually the captain of the fire station and whoever the commander delegates authority to at the district, the MPD district.
Okay, well, we have set meetings at 6D, and I know the last 3 or 4 since Conti left, and before he was there, Habibula was there. She was a female, and that was not what you were saying. Is not what Habibula, Conti, and Taylor said in reference to them being involved, because just like you came out heading in from East Capitol Street, you stopped at no left turn right there at East Capitol and Benning Road, and you had to go circle around and then get back into there. And we asked about that, and they said to us they were not consulted. Now, Paul Savage and Don Murray were the folk who worked with DDOT on the changes. And then Yvonne Moore and myself, we took over. And we had meetings. I still have the folk who signed in and where we had our meetings. And just like you all put that meeting, Karina Ricks was with you all at that particular time. She put that medium strip there, which those persons who lived on Pennsylvania Avenue had to go up and circle to get in their driveways. We would never have done that. It's terrible. And that's why I'm asking, where do you live? Do you live in Ward 7? Just come out here some mornings and see how the traffic is going from Pennsylvania over to Benning Road, and in the evenings. It's terrible. You put that median strip and you got those butt outs. Well, I will be at the old OR school Saturday. I'm going to be at that meeting. I have a chance to meet you all, and I wish, I don't know where Karina Ricks is, but she was the one who messed up a lot of this stuff. That's all I got
Thank
to
you.
say.
Thank you, Ms. Morgan. And just a reminder for everyone, as we are coming up on time, that we will have an in-person meeting on Saturday at Boone Elementary, which is at 2200 Minnesota Avenue. It is just off the intersection on the south side of Minnesota Avenue. And we want to thank you all for your time and your feedback this evening. We look forward to seeing you on Saturday, or to hearing your comment, reading your comments in the notice of intent, the NOI. Thank you very much, and I will give you back the rest of your evening.